shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing.
Bruchim Habaim, welcome everyone. We are here today to celebrate the renaming of Emet. Emet, Brucha Haba'ah, we welcome you to your new life as we affirm your new identity. You have been called to be true to your inner self. You have taken the brave step to renew yourself so that you can be wholly who you are. You have chosen to recognize this transformation, to distinguish the transformation as a holy moment in the midst of your communities, Jewish and other. In Torah, the Jewish people are the Ivrim, the crossing over people. As we crossed over the Red Sea to escape slavery, to escape the narrow places of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, we transformed ourselves, a painful yet redemptive spiritual transition.
I come before my community to declare my desire for a new name. In Jewish tradition, a name change usually only happens for a person who is very ill to divert the angel of death. But Maimonides, one of our greatest rabbis, also prescribed a name change as part of the process of teshuvah, of returning to oneself, of becoming the person we are meant to be. And as many of you know, I have never really felt connected to the name that my parents gave me. I love them and I respect them, but it is not a name that feels connected to me. I've always felt disconnected. And this name has, Emet, has really spoken to me. So that's where I am. Thank you.
Emet, as we move to the core of our ritual, I want to deviate from the script for a moment just to ask you to take a moment and look at the faces of your friends and family from all over the world who are on this call today, and just take a moment to flip through. I have 4 screens of beautiful faces here who have come to witness.
I have been. That's why I was late responding to you.
It's really powerful.
Makes me want to cry, but I will hold it together. Thank
Okay,
you.
you don't have to. Okay, we're going to move to the core of our ritual now. When it is time for all of you to respond, the appropriate words will appear on the screen. Feel free to unmute in a joyous cacophony. Beyond our names, beyond the sounds made to call us, the symbols used to evoke us, there is a soul, pulsing with life, electrified, animated with perception and perspective. Each soul is a glimpse of the divine. Beyond our place, beyond what others call us, or what we have once called ourselves, the soul may speak. In speaking, the soul may express a new name, a new arrangement of sounds and forms, a new symbol to declare itself. Together. Today, a soul
prepares to speak.
Today, a
We
soul
prepare
to listen.
We prepare to listen.
In the midst of loving community, the name is affirmed. As God may be called by many names, so we, who are created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, may be called in countless ways. We call
All
and
we are
we
heard.
are heard.
We call,
We
We
are
are
called,
called,
we
we
answer.
answer,
we
Amen.
answer.
And we answer. Amen.
Amen. In Jewish tradition, a person is called by their parents' names. Emet has chosen to use the gender-neutral construct mibait, from the house of, to honor their parents, Aharon and Daphne, both of blessed memory. We now pause for a moment of meditation, and then Emet will declare their new name to us 3 times, and we will respond each time. Again, feel free to unmute. Cacophony is welcome at this moment.
B'Shem Hashem Elokei Yisrael Miyamini Michael U'mismoli Gabriel U'milefanayi Ariel U'meyachar Rafael V'yal Roshi Shechinat
I am Emet, Mibet Aharon v'Dafna.
You are Emet.
Emet,
Aharon
Daphne,
We hear you.
hear you.
Hear you.
I am Emet, Mibet Aharon v'Dafna.
You are
Emet,
Beit Aharon
Aharon
v'Daphna.
v'Daphna,
We hear
hear
you.
you.
Hear you.
I am Emet, Mibet Aharon v'Dafna.
You are Emet.
Aharon v'Daphna.
Hear you.
We
We
hear
hear
you.
you. You are Emet, Mibet, Aharon, v'Daphna, and you are nameless. The sparks of the divine which reside in your soul defy categories, titles, and labels. You are infinite and you are finite. You are welcome and you are safe. You are Emet, Mibet, Aharon, v'Daphna. As befits a celebration, Emet has asked 7 of their friends and family to offer blessings. I would ask that anyone who is not speaking remain muted, as this is a time to be able to hear every word. I would first like to introduce Emet's sister, Zohar, and Danny, as well as their kids. You can unmute and share your words.
Okay, so I am speaking for our family, and I want to just reiterate that Emet is taking part of a long-standing tradition in our family, that as we get older, we renew. We have a tradition of renewal, which sounds funny, but it's something that we know for personally from our great aunt through both our parents, and Emet is continuing in this kind of tradition of when you get older, you do something new, you do something different. So congratulations, sweetie.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Zohar. I would now like to ask David, Emet's spouse, to say a few words.
Okay, Hiya, I may need your help. I want to screen share. I'm going to change the tone here.
Screen share should be open for you.
Okay. That. And can everybody see this? Yes? Okay. Well, to begin, at the beginning, once upon a time, a happier time perhaps, a beautiful Israeli graduate physicist working in the Netherlands met at a conference in Israel a stuffy Oxford research physicist toiling in the United States. The result? But where were they to live? Well, eventually, Winnipeg and the Dominion of Canada was decided upon, and off they went on a long journey in an aeroplane. Well, Canada took a bit of getting used to, even though it was still in the Commonwealth. The husband would get messages from those dreadful people who use your telephone that you have paid for to sell things. Messages like, "Could I speak to Miss Aviator?" To which he could reply quite truthfully, "Not a clue who you mean, old chap." Meanwhile, the beautiful physicist would be called a bad ass, which was completely incomprehensible to the husband, and he was quite insulted on her behalf. He felt like taking a sword to the mountains, what? Well, anyway, time rolls on as you know, and the beautiful physicist became a mother to 3 spiffing children, then a teacher she didn't like that much, too much bump, and finally admitted one day that she disliked her name and wanted to change it. Well, the husband, had heard this before and didn't quite understand it. He rather liked her name, but then that film came out, the one with her. And for the husband, the penny finally dropped. You've got to translate names to get the association correct, what? Anyway, time rolled on again and again, and the kiddywinks grew up, and the wife decided she wanted to become a rabbi and change her name to Emet. Well, the husband didn't know what to make of this at all. I mean, there was a hall near where he'd born, where the Emets lived, a stately law, but they were always in debt, and it was finally torn down. So that wasn't a good exemplar, was it? And then there's always Emet Road, which is in Dublin. I mean, you probably can't see it, but there's a little utilitarian sign here. That's not the same very much, is it? And then, of course, there's the ever-popular Emets Go Home. I hope you can read it. Then one night, the husband realized he was making the same mistake again. He should have translated it. Over his drink, the first thing he thought of was, truthiness. But that didn't seem quite right. But in vino veritas, actually it was Scotch, he got it, by George. It was verity. Verity. What? No, not that verity. That's not right. This verity. I told you the sword had come back. Take a closer look at this woman in one of the fabulous parts of my own country, This is verity. This is Emet, who has been a loving mother, an affectionate, nurturing, and wonderful wife, a best friend, who has always cared deeply about truth and the social justice that is allied with it, and who I think will make a wonderful rabbi. But look too at what she's standing on. Highly appropriate, actually, given the number of books that are flowing into the house at the moment. And truth and justice are intimately related from beginning to end and stand on Torah. I love you, dear. Cleave to your new powerful name. And the more I think about it, the more the name fits. And never, ever forget your sword. The end.
Wow. and and I'm sorry that for those that have to follow David's presentation, your children, your kids, please unmute and share your words.
So, I'm gonna have to bring the tone back in, because the presentation that the three of us, four of us actually, because we involved Casey in this, wrote together is a bit more serious. So, if everyone needs to take a moment, that's totally fine. All right. Ima. To us, that's always been your name. Any other name you had was a way of presenting you to the world. It was a liaison, and not the essence of our connection to you. So in one sense, nothing's changing. In one sense, everything is the same. Yet, that's not the entirety of the truth. Because even in your role to us as Ima, you've never stopped changing, even as we changed. When we were young, you were everything, a filter through which the world came to us. You were all-knowing. Whenever we had a question, whenever we needed to find something, we came to you. Whether it was a deep question about the universe, or the location of an object that we'd misplaced, it was self-evident that you would have the answer, that you would be able to supply us with the truth, with Emet. And as we grew older, our relationship to you grew with us. We discovered that there were things you didn't know, that, as every surly teen going through adolescence learns, parents are people. And people grow. People aren't static, they're ever-changing. And you're no exception to that, to the abject surprise of our 5-year-old selves. Yet, even as you've changed, you've been a role model for us. You've demonstrated that one can always keep discovering new facets of life and never stop learning. You've always inspired us to continue our self-discovery, both by words and by example, and by your unwavering, infallible support through our own tribulations. Given the example you've set, when the time came for you to change your name, it was only natural that we would want to be as supportive of you as you've always been of us. Many people live their lives unsatisfied, with things they want to do, goals they want to accomplish, or people they want to be. But they don't do those things, or become those people. And they convince themselves that what they've got is good enough, and they settle into gray resignation. But we've learned from you that life doesn't have to be that way. If we want to, and if we possess your courage, then we can change both our lives and ourselves and become something new. Or we can become something that was always there, waiting for us to find it. We can come one step closer to finding our truth, to finding our Emet. And if we take that step, as you have, if we become something new, what do we find waiting for us once we've taken the leap of faith? There's freedom. The freedom and joy of self-creation. It's fitting, then, that the name we know you by, Ima, Mother, and the name for who you've become, Emet, Truth, are almost the same name. The difference resides only in the final letter. From Aleph to Taf, your names bookend the Hebrew alphabet, containing between them the entirety of its contents, and thereby encompassing the infinite well of creative potential from which the world was created. The well from which you create yourself anew. We are so, so proud of you.
Mm, beautiful. Wow. Wow. Now I'd like to call upon Ariel, who has been friends with Emet for almost 29 years since their kids were in utero, and is representing the March 96 group. Ariel, you can please unmute.
Yes, hello. No, the other Ariel, not you. Also known as Rel. We March moms have known Emet for over a quarter century, since she was expecting her eldest child. As our kids grew, we watched Emet grow. Through the years, at the same time as she was doing the daily jobs that come from parenting 3 little people, Emet never stopped working on finding and making the life that worked best for her. There were plenty of interruptions, some mundane, some quite frightening. And even as she was dealing with them, Emet continued to work her way towards herself. From where we watched, it looked as if she was able to keep all the balls in the air all the time. Realistically, it couldn't have been that easy. But from the outside, at our distance, her skill was obvious. Changing your name is challenging. The older you are, the more challenging, since your name is entangled in so many parts of your life. Matching your name to who you feel you really are is important. Emet earns kudos for working her way to her new self, her new name to match the self she feels she truly is. It won't be too hard for us March moms to adjust to the new name. We interact mostly online, through our email list, and sometimes on social media. We are thrilled and inspired by Emet's journey to recognize and acknowledge to the world who she really is. Mazal tov, Emet, for bringing your whole self out for all of us to see and appreciate.
Thank you. Next, we're calling upon Emet's Winnipeg community, represented by Mark, Rebecca, and Anna.
So we were actually had because we had actually a family meeting about this. And we started thinking about what it meant to change your name. And I thought of, as Emet pointed out this morning, because we were at services this morning, that this is my 28th anniversary of being a parent. And one of the duties of a parent is to give their child a name. But we don't necessarily, that name doesn't necessarily reflect who that child is or will become. So I think it's entirely appropriate for Emet to have altered the name that she was given at birth, because this is now a reflection of who she is. And the name itself, Emet, the truth, I don't think could be a more Emet-ish name for her. I have to tell some stories about how that represents itself. So we were at our synagogue in Winnipeg, and my aunt, who has a tangential relationship with reality at times, was saying some things that were factually untrue. And Emet interjected at one point and said, "Don't let facts enter. Don't let facts enter. Don't
call the issue with facts, Mark. I've already made up my mind."
That's what I wanted to say. Yes, it's called the issue with facts. I've already made up my mind. Another instance that I had with her was that we were talking about some aspect in the Torah. And Torah has, of course, been a big part of our communication. And I was asking about some symbolism that was in Judaism and why it was the way it was. And her comment was, well, in a 6,000-year-old religion, a cigar is never just a cigar. But now when she announced when Emet made this change and she announced it, I teased her a little bit, and I don't think that she completely got the impact of the teasing. So I want to explain it a little bit. I told her at the time that she was channeling her inner Paul Pierce, and she probably didn't know who Paul Pierce was, and many people won't know. so I will say who it is. Paul Pierce is a basketball player, was a basketball player, mostly for the Boston Celtics, although he played for other teams as well. And his nickname was The Truth. So now I did a little bit of research about how he got the name The Truth. And for those of you who follow basketball know that there's this enormous rivalry between Boston and Los Angeles. And Boston was playing Los Angeles and they had lost. But Paul Pierce, this is very early in his career, had an amazing game. And Shaquille O'Neal, who was playing for Los Angeles at the time, pulled a Boston reporter aside and said, "I am Shaquille O'Neal, and I have to apologize here. This is a quote, and in the interest of being truthful, I'm going to use the quote exactly the way it was. I am Shaquille O'Neal, and Paul Pierce is the motherfucking truth. I knew he was good, but I never knew he was that good. Paul Pierce is the truth." And I just want to conclude by saying that, Emet, to us, you have always been the truth. You have always spoken it. It has always been who you are. We always rely on that. Mazel tov.
We love you.
Love you.
Next, we call upon Carol and Neil, Emet's honorary Ima and Abba, to offer some words.
What truly an honor. Thank you. Okay, so I'm delighted at all the humor, Mark, and of course, David, thank you so much. And the depth of emotion of the kids who we've been blessed to watch grow up and become the people they are with the names that they've chosen. And we honor that as well today. I'm delighted to respond to your invitation, Emet, and to offer a blessing. I think Torah-based, I hope, a root that's very dear to you and very dear to us. So for me, naming has three. One is that it refers to birth or new life. The second is that it represents a change in status, as in Abraham and Sarah, adding a letter to their name, or conversion or marriage, ways in which we change. And lastly, I think the place where I feel the change the most in our relationship is in gaining a new level of spiritual insight or understanding. And the model for that is Moses' father-in-law, who was a seeker and who carried several names along his path, including Ruel, Chorev, and Yitro, each representing to him a new discovery of divinity or of the interconnectedness of the divine and the human. And so I think of you in that respect as you have continued your spiritual journey, deepening it year by year until you accept the role that you probably should have taken on many years ago of rabbi, serving your community in so many of those ways already, and just receiving the stamp of approval, but working diligently toward that end, reading far more than any of us will ever be able to ingest, but thank you for reading and referring books to us. When I hear the name Emet, I think of all the things that you've already spoken about, the truth teller that I know you to be, sometimes more graciously, sometimes more directly, but always interested in getting to the bottom of things. But I'm also hearing an echo of the golem story, where the name Emet, you know, I was inscribed on the forehead of a clump of clay, and it was suddenly transformed into a living being simply by recognizing the name Emet. So Emet is an animating force as well as the courageous warrior pregnant with sword, et cetera, but it's also an animating force. It enlivens and invigorates the individual. And at some level, if someone were to tamper with that or reduce that name, try to contain it or make it less than it is, it would be rendered lifeless. So hooray for accepting your name. Learning to live with and integrate the many facets of self is a wondrous act. Sometimes it takes several tries. Those of us that have lived long enough know that. Sometimes it takes naming or renaming the self in order to facilitate that integration. So today we gather to witness just such an integration and to celebrate it with you. Emet, you assume the name that best describes the changes, awareness, and growth that have brought you to this moment. And we hope that we can continue the journey celebrating the vitality and new life that you have now incorporated into the life you have lived until now. I bless you and your family to be able to live with the truth, to honor the truth, and to share that truth. Mazal Tov, we love you.
For those of you who the ceremony appears to be something that's new, I want to point out to you that if you go back to the second creation story, Adam is the first person to carry out a naming ceremony. God gives him the task of naming the things in the world. So this in many ways is very much a primordial moment, not only in the life of Emet, but also in our lives, because naming is so primordial, so basic to who we are as human beings. I first met she who used to be called Hadass and David when they came to what was once Rosh Pina. And at that time, it struck me that this was very different kind of people. And I've come to realize that they are Dorshei Emet, seekers of truth. And as I've had the wonderful opportunity to have meals, have the Chagim holiday meals in their home, I realized that they are Mevakshe Emet, people who seek the truth. Table talk at their home is not just table talk. There is something about searching for trying to understand something, to try to clarify something. So it's really a house of truth. The last thing I'd like to also say is that the truth of both David and Emet is in music. Their music is inexplicably connected to their souls and is an expression of their truth. And we who've been in the alternative minyan have had the benefit of their music of truth. And so I wish them both much mazal and good health.
Lots of music.
Yasher Koach. Thank you, Carol and Neil. Finally, we ask for Elior, who is representing Emet's Svara community as well as the AJR community now, to speak. Elior, you can unmute.
I want to start with a verse from Torah. This is Exodus 34:6. Ya'avor HaShem al panav v'yikra HaShem el rachum v'chanun erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet. I can't see the English side. And the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, mighty, merciful, and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in love and truth. Emet, I've known you for nearly 3 years. You were at Svara when I started coming to Svara. We've studied together. We've discussed teaching. We've discussed Torah reading. And now it is your fault that I'm studying at AJR. Your fault. You have been my chavruta in the Mishnah Collective many times, and it has been so wonderful to be able to study with you. At Svara, we study every piece of text, word by word, letter by letter, pulling it apart, piecing it together. And so I'd like to look at this name that you've chosen for yourself, Emet, truth. I don't know all the reasons that you personally chose this name for yourself, but names have meaning and impact that go far beyond our conscious intentions. And one interpretation of this name is that you are coming into your own truth, which of course makes us question if the past might be a lie. And I want to say no. There are lots of kinds of truth. And I'm not just talking about Colbert's truthiness. I love that David already mentioned that for me. There is something called lies to children, which is scientists, you're probably aware of this idea. If I ask all of you to imagine in your head a raindrop, the majority of you are going to picture something that's round on the bottom and pointy on the top. But that's not what a raindrop looks like. That's just what a raindrop looks like in cartoons. That's what a drop coming out of a faucet looks like. That's lies to children. Lies to children is an oversimplification, like the idea that trees get their food from the sun, instead of understanding the clearly far more complex carbon cycle. Another oversimplification, mammals don't lay eggs. Whoops. Once in a while, you get a duck-billed platypus, whatever. No one is trying to deceive kids when they tell kids lies to children. It's just not quite the full whole truth. And so you end up with a less than full picture, less than correct picture. There are also subjective truths. Eyewitness testimony is the perfect example of this. If you ask 5 different people who saw the exact same thing, they're going to have 5 different stories of what they saw. Some of them will differ in very significant ways. There's also the subjective truth of your emotional experience. Nobody else can tell what your emotions are. Only you can know that truth. And of course, there's the subjective truth of spiritual experience, which also can only happen on the inside. Explaining it is like trying to grab a cloud. There are truths that are relative. What time is it? So 10:40. It's 10:40. That's the truth, but it's not the truth for everybody here. How's the weather? My truth is not the same as your truth. Something can be wrong and yet be the right answer on an exam. I mean, have you looked at a science exam from the 1950s and thought, ooh, they got that one wrong? But at the time, it was the truth on that exam as best as they knew. Something can be true and false at the same time. For instance, right now, I'm 52 years old, but only if you count the Hebrew calendar. There are truths that are unknowable, and there are truths that simply haven't been learned yet. One can embrace your past truths and the present ones together. You will, B'ezrat HaShem, have many, many truths yet to come. There's only one big T truth. It holds the past, the present, the future. It holds all of space. It encompasses dimensions that physicists only see in fever dreams of mathematical notation. Our limited consciousness, isolated from the whole, cannot fathom this whole truth. We can seek it, we can serve it, we can yearn for it, but we can only ever approximate it. My prayer for you, Emet, Mibeit Aaron V'Dafna, is that you will always know the fullest truth available to you in any matrix of time, space, and internal experience. May you shine brightly enough to light a path for yourself and others, but not so brightly that you blind or maim those around you. May you stretch out into your truth like a comfy pair of yoga pants and meet the world with confidence. And may you enjoy many, many more years of life. Ad mea vesri.
Yasher Koach. And with the blessings of your friends and everyone here on this who's formed this Zoom community, I want to say that it is traditional to conclude a simcha such as this with a meal. Alas, we are all in different places. So if you have brought a beverage into the Zoom room, we can all make a l'chaim together. If you happen to be physically in Winnipeg on February 24th, please come to Congregation Eitz Chaim to celebrate Emet being called to the Torah by their new name. And now, l'chaim. Mazal tov, Emet, and your family.
Mazal tov.
Emet, do you want to unmute and say and share anything?
Yeah. We didn't allow for replying to people, which is probably just as well, or it would have been twice as long. So just want to say thank you. I think I've dried my tears mostly. Thank you. And Chaya, if you just want to put up the sources for a minute, because the Talmud says if you say things in the name of the ones who said it, you bring salvation to the world. So just really quickly, I did not make any of this up. Rabbi Rona Matlo, I want to thank you specifically because you're here and you were like, oh, did you see mine? I was like, you're going to recognize a lot of what we did. And there's a couple of things on Ritual Well. And also, Sabina Tubal had the first Simchat Chochma. That song, Lechilach, was actually written for her Simchat Chochma. So how lucky it is to have a ceremony that you actually have Debbie Friedman there in person. The video is actually on YouTube. She's like in her 30s. It's amazing. And a few other sources. If anyone wants them, then I will be happy to send them if you want to take that down now. And thank you to everyone for coming. And Chaya, do you want to take down the share? Thank you. And I want to thank my fellow student, Dr. Rachel Posner. Thank you for doing such a beautiful job. I want to thank my child here, Chaya. Thank you so much for running tech so that Rachel and I didn't have to worry about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, thank you to everyone who is here. Feel free to hang out for a bit, and the chat's open. And thank you again. Love you all.
Lech lecha shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach. And I shall make your name great. Lech lecha. And all shall praise your name. Lechi lach. To the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim. L'simchat chayim. L'simchat chayim. Lechi lach. Lechi lach. To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha. To a place you do not know. Lechi lach. On your journey I will bless you, and you shall be